Hi, everyone. This is Block Solid with Yael Tamar, a podcast about the convergence of real estate and blockchain to help democratize the real estate market, increase access, and provide opportunities for everybody. I'm here today with my friend Mark Noorlander, who is a co-founder of several successful companies, including Unchained Carrot, Flashboys Blockchain Studio, Wizzle, Fiat Gateway, and crypto payment solutions. He also lectures at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, and he recently joined the advisory board of SolidBlock. Hi, Mark. Welcome.
Hi, Al. Thank you for hosting me today. It's a pleasure. It's also a pleasure to be in your team. And I want to say hello to everyone who's currently in this webinar, and also for everyone who's listening on a later moment.
Awesome. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a busy day as usual. A lot of things are happening. I mean, I think everyone can imagine, and what's also with all the new regulations coming up. The Netherlands is currently where I'm currently is currently under a change of regulation because of COVID. So we are also watching like what is still possible and what are we not allowed to do anymore.
Understood. So how do you split your day between different things that you do? Now, walk me through your day.
So I mostly start going to the office and look at my agenda, like what is there for the day. Then I start with a team call. So that I'm aligned with the team.
The Unchained?
The Unchained Carrot team, and so most of them are also participating in other projects as well. So we have a brief update, like what is going on, and then I start dividing my days. Some days it's a little bit more helping other startups, and some days are packed with calls with clients or with potential partnerships.
Got it.
Yeah, the days are busy. Yeah.
And the Unchained Carrot, the company name is very interesting and unconventional in the finance field. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, of course. We heard that question before. A lot of people find it interesting, especially if you know what we are doing. So the secret sauce of Unchained Carrot is rewards. And make them accessible through emerging technologies like blockchain and artificial intelligence. We also use a little bit of Internet of Things. And the carrot for us is the impact. So using our solutions, companies can make rewards more valuable. And that is where we're trying to contribute. The focus of Unchained Carrot is the changing market. So I mean, loyalty already exists for now endless years, and getting rewards, you get them everywhere. But there is a new market coming up, like game credits, in-game items, sustainable rewards, and we like to provide these kind of solutions to small and medium enterprises for an affordable price. So that is where Unchained Carrot is. So the carrot is for the reward, and the Unchained has to do with blockchain technology, of course, what we are using, where we store the rewards and make them tradable.
Understood. So you're one of the first players in the blockchain space. I think you started in 2016. What first drew you to blockchain and the decentralized space?
So yeah, of course there are people who are in blockchain space since 2010, 11, 12. The first Bitcoin.
We call it crypto, more of a crypto space, right?
Yes, exactly. So in 2016, I started a company called Unchained Carrot, and we were actually end of 2015, and we were mostly busy with disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, IoT, and some other technologies. And for one client, we needed to find a solution for a prediction market. to avoid manipulation of the prediction market. And that was the first time that I saw some projects based on blockchain technology. And together with my business partner, we decided to go and do a little bit more of a dive into blockchain. And from that moment, we were hooked and decided to go and specialize ourselves on this. And we set up a research and development team of about 40 people back in 2016. And just started to make all these applications where everyone is talking about. We were making them and trying to see what the results are. So that was a little bit like talking from the past. In 2018-19, we did pulled a little bit back. We're a little bit more focused on artificial intelligence, just because we found it interesting. We know what blockchain can do and how it works, and we decided to let everyone work a little bit more and let the market get a little bit more mature. And I think that we are getting there. Like 2020, 2021, blockchain will get real use cases.
Cool. So you recently joined Solid Block. What attracted you to our project?
Yeah, that is where I give you also the word for a second, because I know there are a lot of listeners, people from my network who are really interested in what we are doing together. But to explain a bit about Solid Block, I think that I can better ask it to you. What does Solid Block do and where does it stand for?
Sure. So in general, our listeners obviously know that we democratize access to real estate. We are the founders, myself and Yuval Risberger, we ran into a problem, in the beginning of our careers, that real estate market is really closed up and it requires a lot of money to invest, or you can't access great projects. And if you can, then your money is just locked there for many years. So both of us being in the blockchain space, we realized that blockchain is a perfect solution because it creates the best infrastructure for trading, also for transferring assets, for storing assets securely, for connecting different platforms where assets can be sold. And actually, a few of these aspects, even tokenization right now is not even addressing a few of these aspects fully. That's something that Solid Block is going to do this year. Now, the reason why we approached you, Mark, is what you said about the possibility to incentivize people with blockchain, but also allow people to trade different things on the blockchain. So we knew you understand the importance of trading and the attributes of blockchain that are suitable for this sort of activity.
Yeah, no, this is one of the reasons why I decided to join the Solid Block team as an ambassador. As you said, I'm pretty busy during the days, so I decided to. But I was able to do this job because I have a good background knowledge of what you guys are doing. We set up a lot of projects in this field. So with all the experience from the past and the potential for the future, I decided to join this team. And exactly what I just ended, like with the team. This is one of the main reasons why I joined. I worked with you before in other projects, but talking with the Solid Block team made me decide that I wanted to be part of this movement.
Awesome. And guys, I want to tell everybody, if you have any questions, feel free to post them here in the chat as we go. And I'm just going to go on and answer about anything, tokenization, about what Mark is doing. Yeah.
Yes, please. We really like interaction with our listeners, because we are telling us our story, but we also like to hear what you would like to hear from us. We have deep knowledge of what we are talking about, but we also want to share what you guys want to hear. Exactly. So please feel free to ask.
And today we're going to be talking mainly about the sustainable finance. So this is the new world in which we're able to apply blockchain to raise funds for sustainable projects and to achieve the goals that will bring us to a much more environmentally, safe and protected world. Kind of as a measure of both social enterprise as well as creating more good in the world, right? So we want to give back to the community and also provide and lend this technology to do great things. So in general, Mark, you've done a lot of speaking in the mainstream business and academic world. What are the biggest questions or concerns people have about blockchain?
Now, one of the first questions that I always get is like about the legitimacy and the trust. So this is where everyone always starts. Okay, we heard a lot about it in the news. What is going on? What is true about? What mostly hits the news are the negative stories. So this is where a lot of people mainstream are asking questions about, like, can I trust it? Are there legitimate projects? Are there projects that we should support? That is the first question. And the second question is, like, what are the opportunities? So, and that is a little bit different from the audience. Like if I sit with, I did a lot of discussions with CEOs from in the fashion industry in Italy. There we had a lot of questions like, what can this technology contribute to our current technology stack? But for example, in a bigger audience with investors, it's more the question like, what are the opportunities that are legitimate? Where can I invest if I want to be part of this, and how should I do that in a way that I know that I can trust it? So these are the questions that I mostly get. The questions get a little bit more in depth if you talk with CTOs of bigger companies, but in the mainstream audience, it's all about trust.
Understood. So definitely, when we're talking about doing good in the world, we first have to make sure that we have everybody's trust, right? When people are investing in something, and whether they're going to trust us or trust our projects to reach the goals that they set out to reach. Now, blockchain. Yeah.
You are also giving a lot of lectures and also mainstream. What is your experience on this one?
All right, great question. So with blockchain, obviously getting the bad rep for the ICOs and raising a lot of money for projects that didn't go anywhere. I don't know if we can blame the technology for the shortcoming of its users, right? Of the projects that were using it to raise funds without regulation. What my usual answer is that, the usual question is what you just said. How can we trust this platform that created so many bad projects, that raised money and wasted a lot of money? And another question is that how do we know that blockchain is here to stay? And that's what a lot of investors are asking. Do we invest in this right now, or do we wait until the next thing comes along? My usual answer is that the majority of the banks right now are using blockchain. The majority of supply chain companies have implemented blockchain one way or the other, the big companies. So it's clear that they will make sure that blockchain is here to stay. So it's in their best interest, the big integrators that have already implemented blockchain, not to move to another type of platform, even if it comes along, right? Some sort of another ledger that's as good as blockchain at transmitting information or assets. If such a thing will become relevant in the future, it's going to take time to replace blockchain, because a lot of the integrators have already invested in blockchain fully.
Right? That is true, and also new technologies are not falling from the air. I come from a technical background, so blockchain is there now. Okay, it just depends on with who you're talking, but let's say 6-7 years seriously. So if another technology would pop up, it will take from today, because it's not there yet. So it will take at least 6-7 other years before it is on the level where blockchain is currently is. So is it going to stay? Yes, it's going to stay. And will there be something new soon? No, that is not possible. It's just not possible.
Well, blockchain itself took probably decades to develop. They've talked about decentralized ledgers for the last 20 years, and mathematicians can look and show their papers from 20 years ago. It was a group effort that culminated in 2010 when Bitcoin came out, because everybody wanted this digital money that you can transfer without involving a bank or PayPal, right? Or Venmo of sorts, and then that's how it came about. So I want to move into the sustainability part of our conversation, which is why we got involved and we got together. First of all, I was thinking to myself, what exactly is sustainability? It means a lot of things to different people. What does it mean to you, Mark?
Okay, sustainability for me has a lot to do with being careful with resources, the resources that we have. So and resources can be a lot. It can be a resource from nature, like food, or like oxygen or water. But also on a different level, like a healthy mind. So sustainability goes for me like what we already talked about, like the democratization, having an equal vote. So sustainability goes quite far from my perspective.
Exactly. And so that's one way to define sustainability, right? Being able to maintain a certain level of resources, right? For some people, it could also mean a more environmental or ecological balance, right? And actually, these are both valid definitions, they could even kind of be interconnected in the world of finance. I'll give you an example. Let's say, the current way of getting financing for real estate, with getting 70% covered by the banks, let's say, is probably not sustainable, because the banks are only able to give you as much financing as long as the government can print money really quickly, right? And continuously. So that's the reason the banks are able to give that much money at such low interest rates. Whether it's sustainable in the long term, not sure, because we're running out of a different type of a resource, or a lack of a balance for that matter. Now, when we're opening this market to everybody, for people to come and invest, whether they're on the level of institutions and the level of credit investors, and in some cases retail investors, we are creating a much more sustainable market, a much more diversified investor base. So that's one way for me to define sustainability. In terms of ecological impact, I'm seeing a lot of projects that are coming to us with, let's say, zero impact housing, or or green energy infrastructure projects that are looking for financing. So those are also, that's a different type of sustainability for me.
Yeah, no, I agree on this, absolutely.
Yeah. So what have you seen convergence of blockchain in sustainable finance? Any sort of things that you've seen?
Okay, what I said, for me, blockchain is about democratization and providing access, and inclusion. This is something that all people should already have access to, but they do not always have this. I give examples like affordable housing, financial and digital inclusion, healthcare, insurances. And this is what really attracts me in this technology. It becomes so much easier to get access to these I would say sometimes privileges for some people. which should not be like that. I mean, for us, it is quite normal that you have a health insurance, or that you have insurance for your car, or for your whatever you want. But in a lot of places, it is just not possible to get that insurance, while it should be available, or a certain kind of healthcare, or that you can afford, that you can get a loan for a house which is affordable, instead of that you have to pay to so many different people who are in between the steps, that you have to, that you can eventually not afford it anymore. So this is where I think blockchain can really make difference. Where we already did several tests, especially in the insurance business and healthcare. So yeah, I think blockchain can make a difference on this. What is your opinion about this, Yao?
So I have kind of a fear that sustainability washing. I don't know if that still exists, but 10 years ago we had such a thing as greenwashing, because everything became green, and we kind of seen this new word sustainability being thrown around. Every single bank and investment house is now basically making this category of sustainable products. Apparently, according to UBS, 39% of investors already invest sustainably. Maybe they don't even know that they do. So I think there is a big need to standardize like sustainable investing, and understand what actually makes a project sustainable. Now, a lot of the companies, existing companies, maybe even Chevron, or any big manufacturer, let's say General Motors, maybe according to the current definition, they may be thrown into the category of sustainable investment because of the wrong definition, right? So we look at environmental contribution. Now, there are already some ways that we can offset the negative environmental contribution, and that's through the CO2 credits. Now, I've seen a lot of blockchain applications that are out there, first of all, helping record CO2 credits and trade CO2 credits to the benefit of the community, right? However, there's a long way to go between calling a certain business as sustainable and contributing positively to the environment. If they trade a lot of, let's say, if they acquire a lot of CO2 credits from the profits that they acquire through polluting the environment. So, we need to be really, really careful. I think there needs to be like an independent body working on figuring out what is sustainable investing, what is not. That's number one. Number two, I've seen blockchain applications that help increase trust by, number one, creating milestone investment. Basically, looking at a new enterprise that nobody has heard of, that needs funding to do some amazing things. Maybe we shouldn't give them $10 million up front. Maybe we should give them $500,000 and see what they do with it. So there's some applications out there that have a smart contract, and the whole purpose of this smart contract is to look at what they've done, and based on what they've done, release the funds. Now, there are a number of issues here, because the smart contracts usually work on an oracle, with an oracle. And oracle is basically determines whether they have achieved or didn't achieve the milestone. And in certain situations, KPIs will need to be determined manually by somebody that will go and check if, let's say, they've built a building, or they created an infrastructure to feed 300,000 people or something like that, right? So I've seen several companies out there that are doing this quite successfully with blockchain, which actually is a great application for tracking. I've seen companies that are doing provenance for diamond businesses, for example, and that's helpful, or I think it should be done for every single business, because even a mobile phone apparently is consisting of parts that may have been harvested unethically, unsustainably, right? So I've seen a lot of blockchain applications, probably not enough. If you look at a huge market of sustainable finance, we could definitely do much more.
I also see somebody asking a question in the Q&A. Because I just wanted to go and ask, is there anyone who wants to contribute something or ask us something? And I see a Q&A, I see a question coming in. So I can read it to you. Is Solid Block today conducting the tokenizing or digitizing of assets?
Yes. Right now, we are focused on real estate. We're tokenizing mainly multifamily residential projects. We do have several commercial projects in the pipeline as well. It's for us, it's enabling access to great projects to any investor. That's our model today.
I think because tokenizing assets is not necessarily only real estate. Are you, besides real estate, also tokenizing other assets, values, commodities, bonds? Tell us a bit.
Yes, so we are actually starting to tokenize funds, so private equity funds. And on top of that, we just created a new department dealing with sustainability and impact. So we're looking into opportunities to tokenize green energy projects as well as green bonds, right? So we're about to actually kind of touch upon this subject. It's very, very interesting to me. It's extremely promising based on the growth of the market in the recent years. So we're definitely going to take a big part of it with Solid Block. So I'll be happy to answer any more questions, guys. Keep them coming. So tokenization, guys, is just the beginning. It's the beginning of the new finance. Think about it like a few decades ago, money was not digital. You had to walk into a bank to do all of your transactions, stand in a line, which would not work in the times of COVID. But you had to walk physically into a bank to get a loan. Think about what digital money has done for you and for the business. Now, when we are digitizing assets in that way, we're able to facilitate many, many new applications on top of tokenization, which include trading, collateralization for loans, and indices, benchmarks, all of that, and global transactions that are done outside of the banking system, right? So not talking about outside of regulation. We are fully compliant with any regulation that comes our way, but think about outside the banking system, what that's going to do to the economy.
Yeah, I see another question on this same topic. So, how do you tokenize or digitize an asset? So,
okay, so how do we tokenize and digitize an asset? That's a great question. So, right now, the best way to do this is within traditional plain vanilla security. That's the best and legal and compliant way. We are issuing a security. In order to issue a security for an asset, you have to create a company, a special purpose vehicle that owns the asset. Then you can split that company into shares and then sell those shares to investors, or you can actually issue debt, meaning that you will collateralize these shares of that asset and of that company that owns the asset. And you'll issue debt to your investors, which will be entitled to either interest or they will be entitled to interest. And if the interest is not paid, then they are entitled to a portion of the asset, right? So this is how you tokenize the asset in a technical sense. In a philosophical sense, we are receiving a digital representation of an asset that you can now trade, right? So this is an IOU that represents an asset that you can trade to your neighbor or on an exchange.
Okay, thank you for this explanation, Yael. I also saw a question which I will answer. I'm not sure if it's still there, but somebody asked about, like, if you are going to use governance or regulation on decentralized projects, is it then not getting centralized? And yeah, this is a very, very interesting question, and cannot be answered in like it's like false or true or true. It's more without any governance, the whole decentralized ledger technologies, how we are using it, is going to fail up front. And that was proven with several projects that was already done. So we need to have some guidelines and some governance to apply to. Otherwise, you get a lot of schemes and a lot of projects which are trying to find the edge on what is fair and what isn't. And I think for a lot of consumers, a lot of users of these platforms, these applications, they cannot see the difference between something that is legitimate or that isn't. And then we are talking about trust again. So there need to be some regulation where you need to apply to provide a trustful platform. And that is also why I decided to participate with Solid Block. It applies to all the regulation, and it is in very close contact with the regularity. And that is for me really important, because otherwise this will fail up front.
Yes.
Creating something that can to tokenize assets and to trade them is not so difficult. It's the technology is there, and we know how to use it. But then make a project out of it which is trustful and where people can. That is where the real challenge is.
Right, I agree, and I also want to add. So the question that was asked by Zafar was, do you think there will be regulation in blockchain? Well, there is a lot of regulation in blockchain already, actually. There are several decentralized organizations that were created in a really smart way that, they're not really sitting, blockchain could be sitting on a variety of computers all over the place. So they might not adhere, have to adhere to certain jurisdictions, let's say, when they operate. However, when they take money from investors live in specific jurisdictions. So they must comply with the regulation of that country where the investor lives. So there is definitely a regulation on blockchain when it comes to investing. Now, in terms of whether or not this will be centralized, now there is also, just like there are different definitions of sustainability, there's also different definitions of centralization. Now, the type of centralization that blockchain enables us to avoid is more of disintermediation. Right? You don't need necessarily an intermediary in order to sell your asset, right? So you bought a piece of an asset. Now you need the money. Now, what your options right now is to go back to the company and say, I'm sorry, I have to exit and I need the money. And they'll just give you the money according to whatever price they decide. The disintermediated market is when you can go to an exchange like IPSX. Somebody here is asking me what is the difference between us and IPSX. You go to an exchange, and then you put your security and you say it's for sale, and then the price is determined by a supply and demand. That's disintermediation. Now, it's definitely a very, very centralized space. We don't deny it. We like it to a certain extent, because when you're dealing with finance and people's money and people's savings, you want to have certain level of control, but you do want to give a lot of the control over how to invest, what to invest in, when to invest, when to buy, when to sell. All of that is disintermediated because of blockchain. Now, what is Solid Block and how it's not an exchange? So we're an issuance platform. We help make real estate digital. Then we go and connect this certain project that is now digital or tokenized to one of the exchanges or several exchanges that have the license to trade digital securities. Now, I don't necessarily know IPSX really well. I'm assuming that it has digital securities exchange license. If it does, then we can connect and list there. I understand that the first digital securities exchange with a fully licensed in the UK is actually Archax, and we're definitely have plans to list on that exchange. In the US, the great example of an exchange is T0, but now also the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange has the opportunity to list tokenized securities due to the recent regulation, as do Canadian exchanges, and I'm assuming also the majority of the European exchanges as well.
So what you're actually saying is that a big part of the world is covered in this way.
Yeah, because actually the funny thing is that, and we've discovered this at Solid Block, that you can put the blockchain layer underneath while listing an asset. What we're doing is issue an actual plain vanilla security. You can list this plain vanilla security on the private market, on an exchange, on traditional exchange. Now, if there is a blockchain layer underneath that is governing the cap table, that's all we do. We're governing the cap table, right? So that you guys can go and trade amongst themselves as much as you want, and we're gonna keep track. That's what we do. We're keeping track of all the trades you guys are doing, right? So you can do this. You can do this in the background, basically, right? So you still need to adhere to regulation and make sure that the exchanges are set up in a certain way. But my prediction is I would say even in 3 years, the majority of the exchanges that offer private placements are going to have this mechanism of enabling companies like Solid Block to manage the cap table on the blockchain.
Okay, so I think this answers also one of the questions that is currently in our Q&A, like how that every country has different regulation, and how is Solid Block going to deal with that. So what you're actually saying, Yael, is that we are going to do it step by step. That we going to collaborate with partners in different countries to provide the solution as widely spread as possible. This still means that several countries will not be available in the first moment, but we are definitely working on making the reach as big as possible. Exactly. That is. Yeah. I hope this answers also the question for the person who asked it. I think it was an anonymous.
I couldn't have put it better. I already put it as answered. I couldn't have put it better. Like Mark said, we have an issue with countries like China and Russia and some other countries where there are no explicit laws allowing blockchain and blockchain-based securities. We're waiting to see. I think China is actually looking pretty good now with the latest regulation. A cool thing that I'm seeing, actually, a cool trend that I'm seeing is the Gulf region. They're getting a lot of interest in this, and so we're and especially with the recent peace agreement between Israel and the UAE, and hopefully soon Bahrain and maybe Saudi Arabia. We're going to be doing a lot of business there. So if there's not
exciting, absolutely.
Yeah. If there are not a lot of questions yet, we're still waiting for your questions, guys, and keep them coming. I want to go back for a second to the sustainable finance and some stats that I've seen. This company called Refinitiv, they wrote that in the first half of 2020, there were over 275 billion of new financing raised in capital markets, which included sustainability bonds, syndicated loans, and equity capital tied to sustainability outcomes. That was really, really exciting to me. And they also wrote that was a huge increase over the past years, and it's expected to rise even quicker. Now, my first thought was, as an economist, I have an MA and an unfinished PhD in economics. How do they measure these outcomes? Like, let's say we put in $275 billion. Like, how do we measure the outcomes? Do you have any ideas of how that's done, or any thoughts on how that should be done?
This is extremely difficult, and when we were discussing the questions up front, these were where we were saying like, yeah, okay, and these numbers, how interesting it is, and but I also think that you, yeah, Al, can explain this even better than I do. We talked a little bit about this, and I think that you have a great vision on this.
All right.
So,
So yeah, so I mean, in general, how do we measure anything? We have KPIs, and in general, I think most of these sustainability outcomes are tied to environmental impacts, right? So they have a certain, somehow calculated in order to place the world in what's called a 2 degrees Celsius emission path. They need between $1 and $2 trillion per year. So this is basically to prevent global warming. So to say, we need about $1 to $2 trillion, which is great news because that's actually not a lot of money, right? So so I'm wondering, like, what are the KPIs? Because in order to show the impact of 1 to 2 trillion per year, definitely need very, very strict KPIs. So I would think they want to put money into a lot of green energy, right? Put countries. I know that Europe has very good guidelines for the amount of green energy paths, bicycle path, green energy projects that they need to put in, pollution, and again, carbon credits, right? So now they have these projects, right? The green energy projects are projects all around the world that need money, right, to get started. So they have these sustainability bonds available, right? There's different companies that are raising a fund, right, from a government source, together with a bank, right? It's usually, let's say, World Health Organization or World Bank, together with a bank like a Citibank. They raise a fund, and now they're able to give these sustainability bonds. So what is the criteria which they're using to identify projects that are going to make the highest impact? What are the KPIs that they're providing? Are they giving milestone payments? How are they going to track? We're talking about
exactly.
projects. Yeah.
So getting more insight in what's happening is very important to create trust. Again, what people, when you ask me a question like a little bit before, like what is the question that mainstream is asking, and it's always about trust. It's not about if they can support, because that is not an issue. It's always about, can I trust this, or am I getting tricked by another project? And I think that is where blockchain can give a lot of transparency, of course, together with regulation, that you can see what is happening on which moment, and if certain milestones are made, that you can that funds will be released based on this. And that is not always commercial. This can also be just to support, in non-for-profit, so that you can see, if you support a project, where is that money going and where does it eventually end, instead of that you hope that it is that somebody's going to do something good with it. And I think this is one of the most important things that blockchain can contribute to trust.
Yeah. So again, and also like looking at the standards, for example, like I said, who is eligible for green bonds? And the funny thing that I read in The Economist maybe a few issues back was that China had clean coal as one of the companies eligible for a green bond. And that was really I guess, I don't even know how to define it, bogus, I guess. And so the world, either the World Bank or one of the big organizations, basically asked them to update their list of eligible projects and take them out. So that actually happened in the first half of this year. So that was already kind of standardizing global right, definitions of this. So again, we could use blockchain. How can we use blockchain with provenance? Because again, these huge corporations, when they producing a product, there could be a lot of different things going into it. So it would help track different parts of the product. It will help track where the money is going, that the money is only going towards these green initiatives, right? So we can definitely do that. Now, in terms of us as Solid Block getting involved in this target linked finance and sustainable finance is number one by tokenizing, helping tokenize bonds. Almost any organization can get involved in creating such a fund, right? If they adhere to standards of the funding, and then partnering with companies that help track financing and help track KPIs. And we know a few companies, and we're talking to them.
We still have a very nice audience listening to us, and I know because I had a lot of reaction from people saying that they will listen to it later. But are there currently questions or maybe some things that which somebody wants to have discussed today from the current audience? Is there anyone who wants to contribute something?
Yes. Be happy to get your responses. I mean, guys, you can always write to us, and
Of course, we are always available. Okay,
get involved, whether in sustainability or I see some more questions here. So Sean is asking, you spoke about KPIs for assets. Which of the KPIs are the ones you highlight? So it could be applied to both sustainable finance and just in general. In fact, we have one project where we're developing like a chain of payments. You paid on milestone, right? So you finish the first stage, then you're automatically getting the next payment, and the contractor is getting the payment, right? So that's one example, right? So you're being paid by the KPIs you achieved, but it's even more crucial in the green energy or in a sustainable space where you're getting the funding not only to achieve the KPIs and give your investors back the money and be able to pay, but you're also being lent money at very low interest rates in order to achieve impact. So, and somehow the scientists measure the impact that certain businesses are going to have on the environment. And, if you fit certain criteria, then it means that you are able to achieve the impact, right? So how do we measure impact? Well, again, by slowing down the pollution, by increasing access, like Mark mentioned, access to certain things for people like healthcare, and certain other services. So every project, that's why we have people and professionals in this area, right? So every project that adheres to a certain standard has a list of KPIs. I think these KPIs could be tied through blockchain to a major data sharing platform, which they exist, by the way. They just need to be used, uniformly and globally. And then we'll be able to have a much better idea of who's providing more impact. All right. So I hope that this kind of answers your question, and thanks for the question, because there's a lot to be said here. So do you work the sustainability KPIs into the real estate deals, or do you do 100% of real estate financing on just partial, like 10%? So right now we do not, but it's something that we would like to explore specifically for the green bonds, right? So when we're doing a usual real estate deal and it comes to us and it says we are sustainable, we want to be marketed as sustainable, we'll obviously ask them, well, what are your contribution to the environment? And we have several deals that have said to us that there's zero impact, or maybe they're actually maybe even positive impact, right? So that they have much better, they produce solar energy, let's say, through panels rather than waste, right? So that's not doesn't mean that they're going to get a better condition from the investors. That just, by definition, it just means that they have a better chance because the investors are going to feel like they're going to invest in something good. And that's actually the distribution path for that specific project is through our partners that specialize in either affordable housing or in sustainable real estate projects. Now, in terms of our plan, long-term plan for the green bonds and for getting involved in actually sustainable finance as a field, absolutely. We're going to create KPI-driven financing.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Oh, the question is interesting as well because it could be possible that a sustainable project get a better deal like zero emission, or because it also gets a lot of support from government.
Yeah.
And I do know a lot of investors that will only invest in real estate if it is sustainable. And the minimum is then zero emission.
Oh, exactly. So, also there has to be a lot of simulation and proof. What happens also when the project is out there and it's not zero emission, do they give the money back? So, there's a lot to be worked out. It's a new field. We're looking for professionals to join. That's why we're bringing on right now a few people in this, specifically in this impact and sustainability department that we are establishing, because we believe that number one, it's our responsibility to give back, and also that this is an incredible opportunity for investors as well. And I've seen a lot of hotels, by the way, recently that are implementing sustainability features. And in some cases, like I said, it's sustainability washing because they're kind of required. But on the other hand, because things are getting cheaper and cheaper, and also they have incentives in terms of cost and taxes, this is actually now a favorable thing for developers to do.
Yeah, and this is what they are currently doing. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that this is an extremely interesting topic, and everything where we started in 2016 and earlier, that things are falling together at this moment. I think 2020, 2021, this was already predicted by big parties like Gartner, that 2021 would be the year where blockchain would have the highest impact, and I see that happening. I mean, when we started 2016 with trying all these, we call it proof of concept, or not even minimum viable products, but just proof of concepts, trying things out. And we, at one moment, we more or less tested everything. We said like, yeah, there's nothing to test anymore. But now and that process was way slower, going to find parties who are really going to push a project into the market, and we are currently seeing that happening. So yeah, I'm really enthusiastic about what's going to happen in the upcoming years. So we are getting closer of getting a real impact from technologies that we are working on for several years. I always had the feeling that we were late, that we were behind the facts, and that we were, but we are still really, really front runners on this.
Yeah, I think so too. So I got another question here that I answered in the text. Besides real estate, what other asset classes are you looking at? So we're looking at private equity projects and funds. We're looking at green energy infrastructure, and now we're also looking at green bonds. So, if you guys are involved with any of these, I would love to hear from you. In general, if you're in real estate, we would love to hear from you. If you're interested in investing in real estate, or also in Solid Block, which is actually now doing a seed round, completing a seed round this month. So I'd love to hear from you. In general, we'll just love to hear from you. for whatever.
And we are always looking to projects that are sustainable. I mean, even if it's not from solid block, we also, as Jaels introduced me, I'm also one of the co-founders of a company called Unchained Carrot, which is doing reward-based marketing. And a lot of our clients are looking for sustainable rewards. So, for example, I think that everyone knows these surveys that you get after you did something. I mean, go to a Luna Park, and when you're home, you get this survey like, did you like it? How was the queue? How far did you have to walk from the parking slot? And nobody is actually interested in answering these surveys anymore, for the simple reason, like, you get so many on a day. It's like. So what we are currently doing, and we get quite a lot of success in that, is providing a reward so giving a reward for somebody filling in the survey. And a reward, it does not always need to be in the form of a financial benefit. It can also be so let's say if you fill in this survey, I will plant a tree in. We have some projects in Italy currently that we support. We have some water projects. But for us, it's also important, because this is the most important part for our clients, that they can trust the projects which they are supporting. So if anyone has interesting projects, we are always open for them, because our clients are searching for these kind of projects.
Yes, amazing. So thank you so much, Mark, for joining today. I think we've had a wonderful discussion.
As well.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank everybody who is here on the live podcast recording, or who's listening at home. This was Block Solid with Yael Tamar, where we talk about blockchain and real estate, and invite fantastic guests. You can find us on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, as well as on solidblock.co/podcast. I appreciate everybody coming, and thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one.
Definitely. I also want to thank everyone for participating, and hope to be a guest again, Yael, that we can go a little bit more in depth in discussion. Yeah. And also for everyone who's listening at this later, on a later moment, we are always available for questions. So just send us a message, a direct message on LinkedIn and we are always available to answer.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye-bye.